is valuable. Thanks for spending your morning with us. The Elias Macco Show on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
Good morning, Dan Delmar in for Elias. He is back tomorrow. On the way, we'll talk about long COVID, and we'll catch up with Massimo Lecas, former owner of Buena Notte, on a Nosh Gate and looking back at Pasta Gate. That is on the way. But first, on this Fête Nationale, I read a blog that really caught my attention right away on Vincent Geloso's Substack. French Canadians have always been entrepreneurs. More specifically, French Canadians were never not non-entrepreneurial. And he takes a look at them going through the 1900s on this blog post. And I wanted to catch up with Vincent, who is now teaching in the States at George Mason University, economics, I believe. Vincent, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Excellent. How's your Fête Nationale in the States today?
I'm going to the Quebec delegation office and their little party in the evening.
So wonderful.
I'm going to Washington.
Very nice. So something I've said for years on talk radio, and I know you have the history to back me up, is that the moment you get outside of one of two places in Quebec, Montreal and Quebec City, you really instantly, unless you're really not paying attention, you really get the sense that the Quebecois people are extremely entrepreneurial. But somehow we lose that the closer we get to our two city centers. Is that your read on it too?
I wouldn't say it always like this, but it's kind of a story where people tend to think of the expression "ni pour un petit pain," born for a little bread, saying Quebecers had some form of historical aversion to being entrepreneurial or to show things that we would call like profit maximizing behavior. And you'll find this throughout like history books in Quebec. But when you start looking at it, you realize that no, most of the time what we observe is actually the result of legal institutions that change the constraints. So one way we see this is what happens when Quebecers moved to the United States. Did their entrepreneurial behavior change? Yeah. If we look for the beginning of the 20th century, if you were a French Canadian in the U.S., you were far more entrepreneurial than comparable French Canadians in Quebec. So that because of a different environment, you had a different set of behavior, and that's true across a multiplicity of historical cases.
A lot of, I think, major industries even in New England and a lot of big businesses came from Francophone families that came down, right? I mean, there's still, when you look at the names, there's still a very strong Francophone tradition in New England.
Yeah, actually, even so to the point that at one point, Rhode Island, which is, it's not a small state. It's one of the initial 13 colonies in the United States. It had a French-Canadian governor, Georges Potier, who was a governor of the state. So French Canadians were very active. They had, if you especially look at their living standards, one or two generations in, they're far above their fellow French Canadian countrymen who stayed behind. They have higher levels of education. They have higher levels of literacy rates. So they perform much better. But that's simply because they were in a highly more permissive environment. And there's other examples, by the way, that we can look at this. So one of my favorite cases of the mythology of French Canadians being somewhat economically inferior for some reason is we can go back a bit more in time, where literacy rate amongst French Canadians was less than 10%. So they couldn't learn about new farming practices. But if they were next to English farmers who had recently arrived from England, bringing with them new and better practices for farming, French Canadians adopted these new practices much better because they could learn by observing their neighbors. And not only that, they realized, well, you're doing this new thing, and I know this thing about our area here. We could tweak what you're doing just a little and be even more productive. So that French Canadians, when they could observe new things that would make them better off in terms of farming practices, in terms of business practices, they would adopt much more rapidly and would in fact improve upon the new ideas that were brought in by British migrant, which is, if you think about it, one of the most telling example of great responsiveness to what economists call market signals.
Mm-hmm. And so in you arguing in the piece with another perspective that seems to suggest that the Quebecois who went down to the States became entrepreneurs because they were kind of, I guess, fighting back against some kind of discrimination or racism, and that motivated them to become better entrepreneurs. That's an argument you're not a fan of?
No, because it's the reality is, if you try to explain like why French Canadians were poorer than English Canadians, most of the time it's either tied to legal institutions. So, for example, in the 19th century, the biggest depressor of living standards of French Canadian, it's the seigneurial regime, which restricts competition for labor, discourages the accumulation of human capital in a multiplicity of ways. And later, it's the government monopoly that was given to the church on education, which essentially restricted and limited the quality of education in Quebec. And the second that things started to change, Quebecers, especially young Quebecers, started becoming far more educated, and they closed the gap with English Canadians. So this is another fact of Quebec's economic history that we don't know. But if you took French Canadians in 1941, they had a wage gap with English Canadians holding for education, holding everything constant. They had a wage gap of maybe 30%, and it disappeared by the year 2000. But if you looked at the younger ones, the ones that were most affected by reforms in education, the gap was closed by 1970. So by 1970, young Francophones and young Anglophones are not economically distinguishable from one another, suggesting that this is not like some form of legal discrimination. It was just tied to bigger macro institutions like legal regime for land tenure or educational regime for schooling. And that's it. It's not some form of legal discrimination like you would have in the U.S. South, where there you have like segregation and stuff like that. It was just far more benign but costly policies.
Interesting. So one big picture question to end on entrepreneurism, and I may have to pull you aside and have this in a longer form on my Inspiring Entrepreneurs podcast, Vincent, because it's a kind of a key question. But nature versus nurture. Is an entrepreneur being entrepreneurial for a human being, is that a natural state of being? And the nurture, the environmental factors that change how populations are or not entrepreneurial, the outside factors is the change here? If you just left humans to their own devices, are we going to see a lot more entrepreneurship?
So I'm not sure how to answer that in a very profound way, other than point out that most likely it's not the right thing to look at. For the reason that when we look at the variance across countries or across provinces or states in the United States, in entrepreneurship that is explained by just pure policy differences, so tax rates, labor regulation, industrial regulation, tariffs, we explain so much with things that are just policy instrumented. It doesn't mean that there's no role for some baseline characteristics of population where there's some cultural transmission of behaviors. But if you try to explain what's the entire differences in entrepreneurship across, say, the U.S. or between countries, most of it is policy driven, not more than that. So I would say maybe policy rather than nurture.
All right. Economic professor at George Mason University, Vincent Geloso, Quebecer. Bonne fête, Vincent. Hope you're enjoying your time there, spreading Quebecois wisdom to the Americans. They can sure use it right now.
I try my best. I'm not sure I'm the best advocate, but I try my best.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Cheers.
On the way, we're going to talk a little bit about the health right now in Quebec and our healthcare system, specifically long COVID. Do you still feel symptoms? Have you suspected that you still felt symptoms of long COVID? Brain fog, pain, chronic fatigue, shortness of breaths. This can persist for months or even years. And I'll ask some questions while navigating my own issues with an immunologist from Alberta who studied the long COVID. That's on the way. And we'll talk about the OQLF and have Massimo around, formerly of Buena Note, to take a look back at Pastagate and all this Noshgate stuff. That's on the way. 11:16.
Pride is like love. You feel it in your heart. iHeartRadio, Canada's #1 streaming app for radio and podcasts, including iHeart Pride Canada, your favorite hits, and must-have party bangers, plus personalized and curated playlists like Back in the Day Pride.
Come together, celebrate love.
Take Pride with you, anytime, anywhere. Just ask your smart speaker to play iHeart Pride Canada. Stream us on your phone or listen now at iHeartRadio.ca.
Time is valuable. Thanks for spending your morning with us. The Elias Macco Show on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
Good morning, Dan Delmar in for Elias, talking a bit about healthcare now. Some groundbreaking studies in Canada have helped us understand more about what's called long COVID. I'm still in my own sort of health exploration. I wanted to do a segment to just explain why I haven't been around at CJD very much. I have been hosting shows. Part of it is I run a business. I have a new kid. We live far away, and there's all those sort of logistical complications. But the other is my health, and nothing serious, too serious is going on. Nothing life-threatening. But stuff like Crohn's disease and IBS as well, these are two inflammation conditions that after a while, or after I eat the wrong thing, or after I have too much stress, it just makes my whole body, head to toe, feel very tense and inflamed. So the symptoms can be stuff like chronic fatigue, brain fog, chronic pain, shortness of breath. Not great if you're on the radio for too long, of course, if you get that brain fog. Hopefully you didn't get any today. But that's where I'm at, and I'm currently, I've had a couple of those inflammation diseases diagnosed, so that's helpful. I put myself on a strict diet, and now I'm on the waiting list for a long COVID clinic at the Constance Lethbridge Center. And so I'll keep you updated about what happens, and I'm going to keep talking about it whenever I can on the air, because when I speak about it with people in person, I get a lot of people who are saying, oh, me too, my gut health kind of went wonky, or my brain fog lasted way beyond COVID. I get comments here and there, and I wonder, well, what's up? And have we taken these basket of symptoms seriously? Let's find out with an expert. Dr. Shokrollah Elahi is an immunologist and professor at the Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry at the University of Alberta. Dr. Elahi, hello.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. I know I'm using myself sort of as an example here. I haven't been diagnosed myself, so it's just an experiment, I guess, a theory. But do you find that a lot of people with long COVID, I see some take months, others take years to find out that they have this. Is that your experience?
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, long COVID refers to symptoms that persist or develop after the initial acute COVID infection, which has passed. But some people, based on the World Health Organization definition, so if people start showing symptoms 3 to 4 months after the initial infection, we can kind of consider those as long COVID. And obviously, as you kind of briefly mentioned, long COVID can affect multiple systems, including the immune system, nervous system, hormones, metabolism, and even blood cell production. So obviously, if all these components are impacted, then you will start seeing symptoms such as fatigue, brain fog, sleep disturbance, pain, shortness of breath, and especially worsening all these symptoms after any physical or mental activities.
Yeah, and the symptoms you describe, part of the trickiness of diagnosing this is that they're fairly common symptoms, right? And they can be applied to other conditions as well, which is, I think, caused some confusion on my end.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because these are kind of very common symptoms that, however, we have done extensive work on long COVID patients, especially those that experience chronic fatigue syndrome. And we have observed lots of changes, and we have lots of, various biomarkers that at least can help to identify those individuals.
Yeah, and in my case, when I have this conversation with people about how my health has declined a little bit, some people make it political. So some people ask me, well, do you think it's the vaccine? And I say, well, not necessarily. Studies, and correct me if I'm wrong, show that it's more likely to be the virus than the vaccine, although neither should really be excluded, right? I mean, as a part of a proper medical evaluation, you should present all these facts to your doctors, and if you had vaccine side effects, report those too, right? I mean, would you say it's more likely the virus than the vaccine for most people?
Yeah, there is. I mean, specifically those individuals who have been vaccinated, vaccination in general can reduce long COVID. So vaccination is not causing long COVID. It's a very complex disease. We are trying to understanding, but it's just the infection can cause in a subset of individual long COVID, which is unrelated to vaccination.
These symptoms that have been on for years in some cases, what are the possible treatments? Is there, we know Donald Trump had his theories earlier on in the pandemic, but what do we now know about how to get rid of these symptoms?
Well, in terms of treatment, it's just individualized treatment because the symptoms are not the same in every individual. So basically, we have done extensive studies. At least we have published 7-8 papers in the past 3 years trying to understand the biology of long COVID. And we have identified, lots of changes in the body, including, hormonal imbalance. So we see overall, females are more predisposed to long COVID. So we have seen about the ratio is about maybe 70% of long COVID with chronic fatigue syndromes are females than males. And we have seen hormonal dysregulation. For example, we see in female lower testosterone is associated with long COVID. In male is lower estrogen. And both male and females have lower cortisol. So as you can see that this hormonal imbalance is one factor. Another important elements that we see, red blood cell production gets dysregulated. So if the patients are, their body is unable to get enough red blood cells to carry oxygen, so they will face tiredness, anxiety, and they are unable to do their daily job. So as you can see that there are different compartments of the body can be impacted by long COVID. We see, neuronal, vascular, metabolic changes. So there are different components. So we don't have a kind of a general therapeutic approach. It's just more individuals, and those patients need to see their clinicians and healthcare providers to try to do some additional tests to identify what are measurable biological abnormalities in them. Then that would be potential to kind of tackle the cause. But still, we are still in the beginning of understanding the disease, but we don't have any kind of comprehensive kind of treatment approach for every individual, unfortunately.
Just real quick, we're running out of time, but do you believe governments across Canada are doing enough to treat? Like I said, I'm told my waiting list here is going to be like a good year at least.
Yeah, basically myself, I've been supported by the government of Canada to do research, and we are working very hard to identify the biology behind the disease. But it's a very complex disease because it's a multi-system disease. And when we look at the patient, we see that there are different compartments are impacted. It's very, very hard to kind of identify the cause. And when, for example, the immune system is is dysregulated in influences on other components, or if the nervous system or hormonal are dysregulated, they can influence different components. So it's a multiple system disease. That's why it's very hard to kind of understand it, but we are trying hard. But I think overall there has been lots of investment from the federal government to kind of understand the disease and try to find out what's the potential therapeutic approaches that we can recommend.
Thank you. Dr. Shokrollah Elahi, immunologist and professor at the University of Alberta's Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry. Thanks so much for your time.
Oh, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Oh, good. And last time I was here on CJAD, my producer Max telling me it was July 18th, so almost a full year. And indeed, it does affect stamina. So I'm going to figure out what this is, and then hopefully have more stamina, and then hopefully have more time, more stamina to do more of this once in a while, because it is quite the mystery. Coming up next, the OQLF. We're going to do a Pasta-Gate Redux with Massimo Lecas from Buona Notte, get his take on revisiting Pasta-Gate and Noshgate and how things are getting a bit more tense on the language front.
Close your eyes, and you can hear the entire world come alive. 2026 FIFA World Cup is on, and you can stream it all live on TSN Radio. From the opening kickoff to the final celebration, every match, every moment. Listen to FIFA World Cup on TSN Radio.
Gives Canada the liftoff.
Available on iHeartRadio. Time is valuable. Thanks for spending your morning with us. The Elias Macco Show on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
Good morning, Dan Delmar in for Elias Macco. We heard about Noshgate the other day, so I want to revisit the original language gate of modern times here in Quebec. Of course, I'm talking about Pasta-Gate, and let's catch up with the originator of Pasta-Gate. Massimo Max Lecas is the former owner of Buona Notte, of course, where Pasta-Gate originated. He is now the proprietor of the Novantuno Hospitality Group with the many Italian restaurants in Montreal. Max, welcome back to CJD.
What a dubious title I've been awarded by yourself right now.
The instigator.
I know. And back then, I look back when I saw this latest event. I look back, and it was like 2012, 2013. Yes, social media was around. It wasn't as big as it is today, and I remember the story kind of broke on Twitter. And by me just posting a picture, and then it just grew. It went literally international. I mean, I'm not trying to say that just to say that, but I was getting phone calls from Australia, from London, from Italy, from everywhere around the world. I have a huge book that was made for me with all the clippings from around the world. So it was quite a story. Unfortunately, we're still living with these overzealous agents. It'll all end up and be filed under the overzealous agents. I would love to see that file, the overzealous agents file at OQLF. It always ends up in that file whenever they make a little mistake such as this one.
Well, it's not overzealous anymore, Max, because they made the laws a bit more stricter, and so now you can't even name your business after something ethnic, let alone put it inside your menu. So, what do you make of the not only the lessons not learned since Pasta-Gate, but the tightening and the severeness of the new rules?
Listen. Without being political, you have to be political about a conversation like this. I shy away from all of it. I'm very familiar with the whole situation, but I shy away from it because it's just best to, or else you go down a rabbit hole and it could drive you crazy. But in reality, with the polarization that we see in politics in 2026, it just seems that whenever a party's in power, he is no longer the leader of all the population. He's the leader of the people that vote voted for him, and they just shove these laws down our throats, and then you turn around and it's like, what the heck happened? And here we are finding ourselves with these extremely strict laws that will they be reversed by a new party? Will somebody be able to bring back some sort of middle ground where everybody is a little bit more well served? I have no idea, but right now this is what we're living. It is way stricter, but I still don't think they're coming after souvlaki and pasta and whatnot. But now it's nosh, and where does nosh fall into that category? Where does it fall into that category? Is it separate? I don't know. It's just ridiculous to be talking about it. But in Quebec, it's a thing. It's a thing.
I just would note that my father is a Yiddish speaker. Yiddish is an internationally protected language by the United Nations because it's so endangered. In terms of the why Pastagate happened, I had a theory back in the day, and I have a kind of a new theory I want to run by you, Max. And my old theory was that because you were the proprietor of Buena Notte, you spoke out. Buena Notte was right on Saint Laurent, which is the cultural divide between French and English. It sort of united everyone in the absurdity of the thing. But then I started thinking about it over the years, and I thought, well, maybe it has just a lot to do with the fact that people like going to nice restaurants. Because in the days following Pastagate, there were other little Pastagates, like other Italian restaurants who were complaining of the word pasta on their menus and how
cannoli.
Cannoli, stuff like that. So do you think your popularity, the supper club's popularity, had anything to do with the fact that this was one of the few language controversies that was widely embraced by both Anglo and Franco media?
Listen, I mean, without using a very common terminology about haters, right? But I mean, that's what it all comes down to. They get these anonymous calls. They're protected. We don't know where these anonymous calls or complaints are, not calls, they're complaints. And then they follow up on the complaint, right? That's the way it always stems. So is it sometimes someone that is refused entry to a popular restaurant that lashes out to you any which way they can, and that's one way to do it. So maybe the popularity had something to do with it, but that's really like going into deep theories that you gotta stay away from them, or else you just drive yourself crazy. I mean, the way Pastagate was received by the population and the revolt, and I mean all the way to Pauline Marois, where she was our prime minister back then, and she was shamed by it, and it was a catastrophe. So thank the Lord it ended this way. Now I see today, I'm following the Arthur saga. I don't see the common widespread voice that I lived. Is it because of the stricter laws? Is it because I have no idea, but definitely it's something that you have to push back. Yeah, that's what I did back then. I pushed back, and you have to push back. You have to expose the nuttiness of some of these laws that are sprung upon us.
So you did push back. I congratulate you for that, because it started a whole conversation. I was the first media person who reported on it after that, but I remember I wrote like 2-3 lines about it, and one of them was, I think Massimo should tell the OQLF to vafangul or something like that. I didn't take it seriously, Max, because I thought, because there was so many of them, I was so overwhelmed at the time blogging about so many of them. There was Joe Beef's Anglo art. Joe Beef put up like Coca-Cola vintage posters they had a problem with. Well, the other one that I found insane was the one-word violation. So an Anglo movie producer had a company like ABC Productions, and he had Productions the word twice in the logo. So one obviously was English, the other was French, spelt the exact same. That was a violation. So it's like there's no ending to like how absurd this goes. What the next level to me, like the next level of absurdity is language, is actually policing what you're saying, what you're speaking out of your mouth in a retail situation. I predicted that many years ago. If we don't push back, and if more people, entrepreneurs, don't push back, I think that's the next level, policing speech. What do you think is the next path to get? What does that look like to you right now?
Listen, right now well, we had the bonjour hi, right? I mean, that
exactly.
is our speech, right? The way you welcome people. It's look, I mean, I work in the hospitality industry. I approach tables, I approach clients. I never know. We have like, little cues and tricks that we use in our industry, such as French and English menus that are in different colors, or there's a little code that tells us whether they have a French menu or an English menu. Then you can approach the table in the proper language. But it's literally language roulette, and you never know who you're going to offend. You're never going to offend the Anglophone or European tourist if you speak the wrong language, but God forbid you fall on the wrong person, and then next thing you know, you're fighting over you saying you're welcome instead of bienvenue, or saying thank you instead of merci. Even though you're polite, even though the message is beautiful, is no malintent or whatever, some people just that's their mission, right? To make it very difficult for us to strive in this economy in Montreal, especially.
And obviously, since it's Fête Nationale, we should point out that, of course, then back in the Buona Notte days and today with your restaurants, obviously you can get French service. That's never a problem. There's no drama in everyday interactions.
No. And we have Italian restaurants. We bring in Italian chefs. Sometimes we bring in Italian mixologists. Sometimes we bring in Italian sommeliers that are obviously in the field and have an additional step, right? Because it's their culture, it's what they do. It's they have the knowledge of coming from the land. So we bring them in to have that additional expertise. And honestly, when the client hears the accent, or when the client hears that the said person is having difficulties in communicating, no one gives them a hard time. No one at all. Because in the end, you're just making the experience that much better. But for someone, in the past 35 years, I've been doing this for 35 years, and we've been bringing in talent from everywhere, mostly Italy, because of what we do, right? It's incredible how difficult today it's been to bring in employees. The last case I had was a French waiter from France, and the OQLF was asking us if our company, we had to do a test to see if the restaurant was French enough to bring in a French employee. The guy is French. The guy is French. But that wasn't enough. They had to see, is the company French enough? Can I see your manuals? Can I see your menus? Can I see everything? This is where we're at.
So do you feel like do you feel like they've picked on you in recent years, fairly or unfairly?
No, honestly, I'm not going to play that card. I mean, it's like everybody, it's a random lottery, and where it falls, right? Today it fell on Arthur's. Sometimes it fell on Burgundy Lion. Sometimes it fell on David's restaurant. A lot of, obviously it's gonna fall on an allophone or an anglophone more than a francophone, right? I don't see them picking on French restaurants in Montreal without naming names, but you walk into any of those restaurants that are filled with American tourists, and everybody's speaking in English, and everybody is able to communicate with your tourist that comes into the restaurant, right? So it's just part of being in Montreal, right?
Massimo Lecas, Novantuno Hospitality Group, many restaurants in Montreal, and formerly the proprietor of Buena Notte, where Pasta Gate originated. Thanks, Massimo. Nice to see you're keeping busy, and hope to speak to you soon.
Thank you, Dan. Keep up the good work, and let's hope not to talk again about the same old things in 10, 15 years from now, you know?
Yeah, let's talk about building Montreal, not scaling it back.
Fixing potholes. Yeah.
Thanks, Massimo.
Bye-bye, Dan.
Unmistakably Canadian.
It's the music that raised you.
The artists raising the bar.
Hi, this is Brian Adams.
Hey, my name's Brett Emmons. I'm from the Glorious Sons.
Hi, I'm Nelly Furtado.
Made in Canada. The station that champions Canadian music.
Loud, proud, and all yours.
No passports required. Just press play.
Tap into Made in Canada now on iHeartRadio.ca
or the free iHeartRadio app.
The Elias Macco Show. News Talk Radio. CJAD 800.
Well, it's been fun filling in for Elias today. He is back tomorrow. Also, one very important shout out for the family of Mohammed Lamin Ben Radwan. So his funeral, as well as Mr. Mizrahi's funeral, are taking place today. And there is a GoFundMe set up for the police officer, Constable Ben Radwan. And that is on GoFundMe. So if you just Google Mohammed Lamin Ben Radwan, you can find it pretty easily on GoFundMe.com. They're up. They've nearly reached their goal, so they're at $346,000 raised now. They want to make a goal of about $550K to help his family, his kids, get through this horrible time. So if you can, please donate. Again, GoFundMe.com and search for Mohammed Lamin Ben Radwan, or just a quick Google will probably find that for you. It is Fête Nationale, so I hope everyone is heading out to do something outdoors today. We have a beautiful province, beautiful city. Guys in Master Control, Max and Andrew, what are your plans this afternoon? How are you going to take in this beautiful terroir that we have here?
Well, first I'm going to keep celebrating with hopefully a nice Quebec-based meal at back home, either maybe, I don't know, shepherd's pie, maybe poutine, maybe something in that vicinity. I will be also encouraging and celebrating the Quebec players that will be part of Canada's men's soccer team that will be playing this afternoon at 3 o'clock.
Thanks for reminding us.
No problem. They face off against Switzerland at 3 o'clock. A win or a draw for Canada puts them first place in the top of the group heading into the next phase of the World Cup tournament. So that will be an exciting time to watch and see how Team Canada goes.
I asked you yesterday where your people were from, and you said Brossard, and I think I don't talk about Brossard because I don't know how many recommendations there are for nature escapes in Brossard. But when you want to go out of Brossard, Max, what's your favorite location to go?
So I missed. Then in that case, I misheard your question. So my father is actually from Sept-Îles, and my mother is from Quebec City. And usually, growing up, we would do a lot of road trips to Quebec City. Where we'd go see Plaine d'Abraham, go see the old Quebec City, go in that area, and it was always a fun time, always a fun visit to go to. And as I mentioned, grandparents live in Mauricie, so always going to see Parc National de la Mauricie, the Saint Maurice River, always a great destinations.
We're going to Quebec City in a few days, and my daughter loves playing in the trenches, in the moats with the old fort there.
Yeah.
Likes jumping up and down. It's going to be a lot of fun. And in Master Control, we also have Andrew Malik. Andrew, I know you're a newish. How long has it been?
It's been about 7 or 8 months since I've been here, yeah.
And what do you think?
I like it. It's very different than British Columbia, but at the same time, it has the similar vibe, I find. It's sort of just like the French BC is how I'm seeing it so
similar.
far.
Smaller mountains, but similar vibe.
Yeah, different.
How are you getting by in French?
Je ne parle pas bien français, but I'm slowly learning. My girlfriend's grandmother is a French tutor, actually, so I get free tutoring every week.
Oh, wow.
makes it a lot easier doing that, but it's still hard. Looking back in high school, I wish I stayed in French. I told myself I would never move to Quebec, and here I am.
Wow. So what brought you here?
Just work, and I'm a Canadians fan as well. I've always wanted to try living here and see if I can make it work, and yeah, it's worked out so far.
And have you done any big classic Quebecois road trips yet?
No, but my girlfriend really wants us to go to Gaspésie. I know that's a bit of a long trip, but back in BC, we would do long road trips all the time, so I think I would like to go see the East Coast instead of the West Coast for once. But yeah, I've heard it's just beautiful over there. So
excellent. Well, I recommend the Laurentians all the time. Great road trips. They have La Route des Belles Histoires in the Laurentians right now, and it takes you through all these farming villages and all these downtowns that have remained intact pretty much for 200 years since they were founded. I like that. And of course, we talked about Le Petit Train du Nord, which is a multi-purpose path for biking, cycling, walking, rolling. If you're on something that's rolling, just no doggies allowed on the path, which sucks. Although they've tolerated Poppy the dog in my backpack for many years, so
you got that going for you.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to spend some time in the summer. Should we take a look at a moment from the Big Five this morning?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
why not? I mean, it was a discussion. If I remember from correctly, it was a discussion where we were talking about like Quebec is also part of being in English, and this comes from the fact that unfortunately, Quebec, the provincial election will not have an English debate. So let's hear from Microgaria.
I'm not just disappointed, I'm insulted. I'm Francophone, you can hear it. Grew up in Montreal, Haitian descent. French is my first language. It will always be. French is important. It's the language of the province, but we tend to forget that we also have an English community in Quebec. It's part of our history as well. And I never understood, and I will never understand, why we look at English-speaking citizens as the enemy.
Yeah, amen to that. Francophone Miko Guerrier going to bat for the Anglos this morning on the Big Five. You can, of course...
Canadian women are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Subscribe to the Big Five as a podcast, iHeartRadio or wherever you find your podcasts. Elias will be back tomorrow. Don't forget, once again, there are GoFundMes set up for the victims of the shootings this week. There are actually two. So there is one for Michel Moshe Mizrahi that you can donate to. There is also one for the police officer Mohammed Lamin Ben Radouan. If you can donate to both, that would be great. Two heroes, a Muslim and a Jew in Côte-des-Neiges, in one of the most multicultural, diverse neighborhoods in the country. Wonderful men standing tall on a daily basis for Western liberal democracy. They are heroes. I hope we remember them together. I hope the borough plans some sort of fitting tribute, because there is some beauty to come out of these tragedies, and I think the fact that we can all be united, Jews and Muslims, Christians, everyone here, against this sort of violent terror speaks well to our long-term prospects as a civilization. So rest in peace, Mr. Mizrahi. Rest in peace, Mr. Ben Wadrouan. And sorry for the rough week we've been having. Bonne fête nationale, relax. Hope you get outdoors today. And let's talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
You're listening to the Voice of Montreal.
News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
An iHeartRadio station.
The newest tracks.
Let's go.
New music. And the next big thing.
Always on the new music first.
Your first place to hear it all.
'Cause you gon' like it, love it, wanna play it twice.
Playing now.
iHeart New Music. Your digital station for brand new drops, fresh finds, and tomorrow's bangers.
I think we need something new.
Discover iHeart New Music. Always fresh, always first. Stream now on the free iHeartRadio app.